There's nothing like being behind the scenes. And Corey, for the first time, has put us in the green room. He's about as close to green as you're going to get, although it's gray over there where he is, by the way. So it's not the green one, but it's really the place to be. It's a place to kind of hang out, man. And this episode is going to be truly amazing because we're talking about something we've never talked about, like deal making, like DealQuest. We'll get into that. But Corey, so I don't sit here and read this bio because that's not what I do well and it's exhaustive. Take a minute, if you will, or so, and tell us a little bit about who is Corey and what are you up to these days? That's more important.
Yeah. So listen, in the first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you and the audience. And I love the concept of the happy entrepreneur, and that's what I feel like I've been for a long, long time. I started my first business. I'm talking about like after the lawn mowing and the paper routes and whatever. I started my first real business when I was 15, and I had let's call them contractors because I wasn't withholding taxes on their pay. But I literally had a business where I had people working for me, and I used to deliver flyers door to door in Brooklyn growing up, and then I got my own accounts, and I hired my friends, and had a business in I'm going to give my age away, but in 1976, 77, before I left for college, making like $300 a week as a 15, 16 year old kid, which was amazing. So I've been an entrepreneur since I'm younger. Went to school, came from a family that said, you got to go to school, get an education, get a right job. And I became a lawyer. And 5-6 years out of school, after working at big firms, I hung out my own shingle, had no clients, built it up from zero through just networking and hustle. And, I didn't have a book of business that I took with me. So I created a law firm when I was 30 years old in 1990, beginning 91, 92, and I built it up from there. And now I have a speaking, training, and consulting company along with that. I've done real estate investment. My world is entrepreneurship. That's who my clients are. That's who I love to be with. Former president of the New York Chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization. So I love people who are creating new things, have visions, and what we do is we help them grow.
Man, you help them grow. I know we're going to be having this conversation. What's up, Pony Williams? Thanks for joining. Sandra, it is always a pleasure. You're in for a treat. I know we'll get into this whole topic, but deal-driven growth. Just take a moment and just, why did you have that topic, number one? And number two, why is that important to the entrepreneurs that are listening right now, that are tuning in, that are really ready to grow their business, like Sakoni Prince, who just dialed in right now, by the way, and Craig, who's watching as well. Why is this important now more than ever?
Yeah. So here's the thing. All right. Most entrepreneurs we know are looking to grow, right? Mm-hmm. Whether they're smaller, whether they're, just starting up, or even, whether they're at a bigger level. And the way most entrepreneurs look to grow, and you need to do this, right, is to what we call organic growth. You need to have clients, customers, do sales, marketing, provide great products and services to them, keep them happy and all that stuff. If you don't do that, you don't have a business. But there's this other way to grow that only a smaller percentage of entrepreneurs do, and there's a lot of misconceptions, right? People think, deals are only for the big companies. They're only for well-financed companies. Well, that's not true. Yeah, I mean, listen, there are certain types of deals. If you need to go out and spend millions of dollars to buy a company in cash, right, only so many companies can do that. But every company at every size can do some sort of deal, whether it's a joint venture, strategic alliance, an affiliate deal, a distribution, joint marketing deal. I mean, you name it, right? Licensing. There's a million ways to do it. So I'm an evangelist to say, hey, listen, don't ignore your organic growth. You need to have a great product and be able to sell it. But there's this whole other avenue that so many entrepreneurs just never take advantage of. And they're banging their heads against the wall to try to get more clients organically. And they could be also doing this other route at any size, at any type of business, and help them, grow their business as well.
Take a moment, if you would, and kind of talk about, just for a moment, we're in the worst pandemic in my lifetime, and they say the last 100 years. And yep. I've been asking guests as they've come on, what type of conversations have you been having with your colleagues behind the scenes and with others to adjust, to switch to business? Prior to this, us going live, you would tell me how I used to be on a plane almost every week, if not more. And now you've been grounded since March 1st. Take a moment and talk about the conversations you're having with you and your colleagues as it relates to COVID-19, which is really, really serious during this time.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, and one of the things actually I did, Shay, was I started this call that we were doing weekly, and now I'm going every other week, really just to provide like just a Zoom call for entrepreneurs to get together to talk about. Originally, it was really COVID, 19 based, and hey, what's happening? What do we see the trends? What are going to be the opportunities? What are the things to watch out for? How can we support each other? And it's evolved, and we've gotten into talking about various other things that have been happening, including, the murder of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and you name it, and how that's impacting society. But the point is that the conversations I'm having there, the conversations I'm having with my clients, with other fellow entrepreneurs, it's very, very interesting because there's this sort of this bifurcated thing going on, right? There are actually a number of businesses that are doing really well, and they're sort of feeling guilty or afraid to talk about that, right? Because listen, I have a good friend and client who's in the tech space and has an outsourcing company for developing apps and blockchain stuff and all that kind of stuff and whatever. And as companies have sized down here, they've outsourced more, and he's got hundreds of people in India, and he's booming, right? There are companies that do things with logistics and delivery, whatever, that they're booming. I'm fortunate that my business. I'm not speaking. I'm not on stages, which is part of what I do, right? But my law firm business, my consulting business, is doing very, very well because we were set up to go remote, and I have certain clients in financial services and other places that are doing well. On the flip side, you have, this is very different, for example, than like the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, where it hit like everybody. Here, there's just this dichotomy where you have segments of, restaurants, other millions of businesses that are super hurting, and then some that are doing really well. And then also, I think, one of my observations was interesting is that, listen, people are all over the map, and I think it's important to acknowledge wherever we are emotionally, and we don't always listen. I'm a super positive person, right? I think entrepreneurs tend to be that way, but sometimes we step over the need to be honest about any kind of fear or stress or whatever's coming up for us, and be willing to be with that, not live there forever, but being willing to be with that for a little while, acknowledge it truly, maybe get support from, friends, colleagues, or whatever, and then be able to move past it as opposed to just, sucking it up. So, I'm in some of those conversations, and checking in with my folks. And, one of the things that you always find in challenging times is that, certain people get hurt, but there's also a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. Let's jump into it if we can. As I see Anthony Abram is out there. He's tuning in all the way from Austin, Texas. Deborah Gardner, who's out there in Phoenix, Arizona. Thanks for joining in. Dee Bolden, Stephen Bell. So many folks are tuning in. Let's just jump right into, this whole concept you have. I'm going right into the experts. This authentic negotiating. One of the books that you've written. Now, we're going to get to this whole deal growth thing that you talked about. So don't worry. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not forgotten about deal-driven growth. But he wrote a book called Authentic Negotiating, which to me, as I tell him, is an oxymoron, right? How do you believe, there we go, how do you believe that people can really be authentic, by the way? So take a moment for those folks that are tuning in and say, yeah, I hit the nail on the head. I'm trying to do collaborations. I'm trying to do partnerships now. I've got to get with people and work with resources. Tell us, what's the premise of the book, Authentic Negotiating? And is it even possible that sides can come in and be very authentic?
Yeah, so I would say not only is it possible, but it is the most effective way to negotiate, which goes against a lot of what people might have heard out there, even, what some of the trainings are like. And, my assertion's a pretty bold one in this area. And I think that a lot of the information and training and I've seen articles in major business publications as recently as months ago that talk about things that are really actually not effective at any significant level with anybody who knows how to negotiate, because a lot of the training is about tactics and counter-tactics, and then counter-tactics to the counter-tactics. And a lot of times it becomes manipulative and game playing. And, one of the premises that I always say is that, listen, especially in business, that almost every negotiation you're in is either the start of a new relationship or the continuation of an existing relationship. And if you take advantage of somebody, if you leverage somebody, if you come across, from an inauthentic place, if you take advantage of somebody, you may win, quote unquote, on certain points in that negotiation, but you're going to lose because that relationship's not going to work, right? Mm-hmm. If you've leveraged somebody because we're in a down economy and they're desperate, okay, might you be able to get that deal done cheaply from your point of view? Yeah. But the minute things get better, how loyal are they going to be to you, right? Are they going to give you their all in whatever, arrangement that you have with them? That's not going to happen. So authentic negotiating comes from a fundamental place, first of all, of that it's about the inner work. It's not about external tactics. And there's a fundamental framework, which is CDE, the C being clarity, the work you need to get to do totally clear on exactly what you want and don't want to come out of the negotiation, right? There's a body of external research and internal work to get there, which I can talk about for a long time. Then the D is detachment. How do you stay detached from the outcome, right? The master negotiators are always detached. It doesn't mean they don't care, right? If I'm negotiating a deal with Che, I should have a preference that we get the deal done, or else why am I wasting my time? But if I'm absolutely clear on what works for me and what doesn't, and we can't come to an arrangement on that, right? I'm willing to walk away, but this is the key thing, not from some place of upset, anger, ego, whatever, which people talk about, you need to be able to walk away. No. It's not because Che runs a jerk or he's, whatever. It's because whatever you need in this negotiation doesn't meet whatever I need in this negotiation right now. And that's okay, right? I trust that we're not meant to do a deal right now. And then the E is equilibrium. How, when I get into that negotiation, do I maintain my equilibrium? How do I not get thrown off? How do I not have somebody, when somebody says it does trigger me, how do I keep that center and that calm so that I can keep listening, keep on strategy, and not get triggered and thrown off?
You talk about embrace deal-driven growth. You said you've got to embrace it. And you just kind of walk through very cleverly, by the way, the whole book and the premise and the 3 takeaways from it, which was just amazing. Show the book again real quick. I want to make sure they have the name of the book. What's the name of the book?
So it's authentic negotiating, clarity, detachment, and equilibrium, the 3 keys to true negotiating success and how to achieve them.
Love it. Love it. You said embrace deal-driven growth in addition to organic growth. So now you got to break down what is deal-driven growth, and then how do we embrace it? Is it just the idea of, go find someone to do a deal with? Talk about that if you would.
Yeah, so let me take those in reverse order, because I think everything starts with mindset, right? If you don't see yourself as people have this view of what a deal maker is, and by the way, they may have some negative connotations around that, or they may have some, they may look up to people they consider to be deal makers, and they're not deal makers. You know what? That's a conversation like anything else, right? It's the same conversation people have about their relationship to money, or not owning their worth, or not, or feel imposter syndrome. There's a million mindset shifts that we need to go through to become successful. And by the way, folks, no matter what level you're at, once you get it and move to the next level, it happens again, right? There's always a mindset shift to go to the next level. So we need to start there with the internal work and the mindset shift. So the first premise I want to start with is that everybody, can be a deal maker. It's a learned skill like anything else, like you learned your craft or your business or how to sell or, how to manage people or whatever it is, right? You can learn how to do deals, especially if you get the right advice, resources, build the right team, like anything else, right? And do it properly. So you got to have that mindset shift. And then listen, there's an education process. One of the reasons that I have my DealQuest podcast is that we talk about all these types of deals. So, people, and there are other resources out there, right? You don't only have to go to my podcast, but the point is, you want to figure out what is a strategic alliance? What is a joint venture? What is a licensing deal? What is a distribution, deal? What is a joint marketing deal? Are there acquisitions I can do that don't take having a lot of money? Oh, maybe I can give some equity. Maybe there's other ways I can, do what they call an acqui-hire, where it's positioned as an acquisition, but it's really hiring somebody, maybe giving them a piece of the revenue. So there's a million structures and deals. yes, you're going to have people like lawyers like me or coaches or consultants or investment bankers that can help you, but you need to get a fundamental understanding of the menu, right? What's on the menu? Because I have a lot of people who say, well, I don't know, what kind of deals can I do? And I look at their business in 3 minutes and can say, well, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. So learn what's on the menu, start seeing what's available, and then, get the right expertise around you to help you get it done.
Love it. Person's sitting out there right now, and they might be thinking to themselves, man, this is great. Two type of folks. We'll talk to the first individual that wants to do partnerships, let's say, with individuals who have contracts. So they may not be big enough to do what's be called a prime on the deal, which means they've got to be able to fund it with the government and have all the resources. But they're out there saying, wow, how do I even approach, or can you share one idea or strategy where I know I do something really well, I don't know what it is, design websites, and I found 5 large companies that provide the service, and I could easily be a sub on the deal and do some really good work. So what's maybe one idea that you could share with someone out there watching right now and are listening on how to start the conversation when they're first trying to approach someone?
Well, okay, so there's a couple, 2 things I'd say. One is this, that you need to determine, so just like you have a value proposition, or you should have a clear value proposition for your customers or clients, right? What is your unique selling proposition, your value proposition, your differentiator, whatever you want to call it. You want to look at that same thing as to your potential deal partners, right? Why would that big company, in your example, want to do business with you? What are they missing in their offering? What are they not great at that or what part of that product or service is your product or service an enhancement to? Okay. And then what to be able to pitch them. And there are a lot of big companies that have structures for this in general, where they are looking to partner with smaller companies because smaller companies are more nimble, innovative, et cetera. And frankly, their approach is not to develop this stuff in-house, but to have other people develop it, do agreements with them, and eventually potentially acquire them if they work out, because they know those companies are more nimble. One other thing I will mention, if you are a MWBE company, minority women business-owned company, right, there are many opportunities, both because there are in government contracts, because there are legal requirements where a certain number of those contracts and there are all kinds of city, state, federal agencies, and then even in the corporate world where they have policies, where they have policies that require them to do a certain amount of their business with MWBE firms. Many larger companies are partnering with MWBE firms to meet those requirements, and that's a huge opportunity as well if you fill into those classes.
Yeah, I love that. What do you suggest to folks that are out there? I see Diane, thanks for joining. Nikki Ray is out there. Kristen Grifton, it is always a pleasure. And they're like, okay, I like that. Get the certifications. I like what's out there. Great advice. Now we're going to shift to the other entrepreneur. And the other entrepreneur is out there and saying, look, I'm looking to collaborate or partnership or do deals, as you would say, with other entrepreneurs. And I'm curious, what type of questions do I ask if I want to go into a partnership with someone and we're going to do an event together? We'll make that kind of small. Or I do sales training, I'll say that, and someone else does websites. And now we want to do a product joint venture together so we can go after a larger market. Take a moment, and it's a very broad question, though, as an attorney, for you to answer, but here's the question. Can you share some maybe 2 or 3 do's and don'ts when you're starting those relationships so that folks that are listening can watch? And I know that your company also helps companies do this as well. So I certainly appreciate you sharing your thoughts and ideas on that, but that's a common question that comes up often. How do I know to do it? What are some steps I can do to kind of protect myself?
Yeah. So the first thing is I'll take you back to my C from the negotiating point, because it applies here too, is clarity. Okay. Too many people rush into deals because they see, an economic opportunity. They think you got to get clear on what this partnership is going to look like, right? Or joint venture or strategic alliance. Forget for a moment how it's structured, but let's use the term partnership, because partnership can mean owning an entity together. It doesn't have to be that. Let's use the general term, business partnership, right? Whatever it looks like. You need to get clear on what you want to get out of it, your why for going into it, and then the respective duties and expectations of each other. right? If you don't do that work first, you're setting yourself up for disaster, okay? Because if you don't, and that's the basis for everything. Why are we doing this? Who's responsible for what? How do we split things? All right, then you want to do due diligence. This is a big mistake people make. They don't do their due diligence on their potential partners. What does due diligence mean? It means you're going to do some financial due diligence, some legal due diligence. Yeah, you're going to do some background, checking, but you're also going to do, let's call it cultural or personal due diligence, right? Part of due diligence is, maybe you can have your accountant look over numbers, but you also should be going out to dinner or lunch or having a Zoom beer together in these days or whatever it's going to be, right?
A Zoom beer, that's good.
Spending time getting to know that person. Because if you're in any kind of business partnership, any kind of relationship, okay, people like me with my lawyer hat on can draft great agreements for you, but that agreement is not going to, it's going to protect you, right? It's going to make sure that you have a meeting of the minds on the deal terms. There's good reasons for it, but ultimately that business partnership is going to work not based upon the agreement, how good or bad it is. It's going to be based upon the relationship and the ability to communicate and the shared vision and the ability to work together. So all of that kind of due diligence, legal, financial, background checks, due diligence, speaking to references, spending time together is absolutely crucial, and people skimp on that, and it comes back to haunt them. So that's the second thing I would say: clarity, then do your due diligence, and then the next big thing is structuring the relationship correctly. Not only to protect your downside and deal with risks, like what if it doesn't work out? You should be clear on that. It's like a prenup, for business, right? You should not, because you expect it to happen, you hope it doesn't happen, you're not in a negative place, but you better be planning what happens in case it doesn't work out, and then also what if it is wildly successful? What is going to look like there? Do we have alignment on how we're going to grow together? So I think those are the big things. You're going to find with me that a lot of times I'm always going to come back to this internal work, this clarity, this mindset, this clear communication, which sometimes is less expected from somebody who might be put in a lawyer box or in a consultant box or in a, because I've been doing this for 35 years. Okay. And before that, as a young entrepreneur, but, professionally for 35 years. And I've seen what makes or breaks these things. And, it's that stuff. It's, the legal agreement is going to give you the roadmap on what happens if things go wrong or how you split things if things go well. But, if you can't figure out whether there's alignment and vision and values and all that kind of stuff, then, it's a problem.
Yeah. For Angela, Dr. Angela Cutler is out there. Thanks for joining. Ursula is out there. And all of you who tune in, by the way, do me a favor. You can pay this message forward. We believe that you can serve plus give value. And that's certainly what Corey's doing right now. So hit the watch party button. Hit the share button. You can pay this message forward to your network. You can pay it forward to another network. And when you hit the share button or you hit the watch party button, a little box comes up. Just go ahead and put in there, be an authentic negotiator. Hashtag Corey Kupfer. Did I get that right? Kupfer?
You did.
Okay. So just go ahead and put that in there, because you can be an authentic negotiator. For those folks that tune in, want to know, well, what is this word of authentic these days, by the way? I hear you. I'm going to ask them, break down what authentic means once again. I know we did that in the green room. So you can be clear that you fit into that box. It is possible you can be an authentic negotiator. So first, Corey, if I can, while they're hitting the share button, while they're hitting the watch party button, let me go ahead and just address the elephant in the room, which is when the deal starts going the way you don't want it to go. And you've got to have the first conversation. I know you teach this. I know you work with individuals. You probably have master classes on it. You've written a book on it. But I'm feeling like it's not going the way I want it. What's the first thing that I should do? Is it get you on the phone? Is it go to them and say, this is wrong? How do you even start the dialogue when you feel like you're on the receiving end and it's just not working out? It's just starting that way.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is just take a breath, okay? Because being reactive in any situation is not good, okay? Doesn't mean that there may not be situations where there's truly issues and you got to address them. And I'm not saying being weak anyway, but take a breath, because a lot of times we don't realize how much of in the dime, we have, that we have a nickel in the dime, right? I love, there's some people talk about how I was just, who was I listening to? Kedma O was on my wife, Ragatis's Facebook Live. And, she brought this up, that I've heard this from other people, about the fact that we all live in our own movie, right? And we're the director of our movie, which is great because we get to change, and cast our movie and decide who's in our life and who's not in our life. But at the same time, our movie may be our view of what the world is, and other people have other views. So as opposed to drawing conclusions, be open, get clear on what you think's going on, but then ask a lot of questions would be my advice of the other person before you go and accuse or assume, okay? What's going on, because you may be, I can't tell you how many times people have thought, things are horrible and because they're in reactive mode, and then I help them ask the right questions and the parties are able to talk it out and figure it out. And that may be figure it out to stay together and work together, or even if you can't, it's figuring out in a way where it's a much more amicable discussion on how to move to whatever's next for each of you in a way where the clients, the customers, and everybody don't suffer, right? So don't be reactive, ask questions, be open to the other side would be my initial piece of advice.
Love it, man. As we get ready to move to another segment in a moment, there are folks out there might be wondering, I like what Corey's saying. I didn't know Corey existed unless you go to him to get a contract signed or someone writes a contract for the deal. Take a moment, if you will, and this is good for you. I think this is a great question because it's got to be on their mind. Hey, I need to work with someone like Corey, and Corey, for many of you, is the right person. And you might be wondering, but how do I know before I work with someone like Corey? What are 2 or 3 things that I should be asking that person? Because, one, I'm going to be writing a check. And 2, they're going to be guiding me down this path of deals making or helping me make sure I get the deal right. And I don't know if I've got this right beforehand. So can you give like 1, 2, or 3 things they should look for when they're looking with someone and maybe having a conversation with someone just like yourself that they should be aware of before they even bring someone like your firm on?
Sure. So listen, I mean, I'm going to skip the easy stuff, like obviously, look at experience and references and all that kind of stuff. That everybody knows that. But I would say, especially on deals with lawyers, so I'm going to make this very specific. Lawyers, every lawyer these days says they're a deal maker because for many years they got reputations of being deal killers, and lawyers bristle at that characterization. But frankly, unfortunately, I find it's true with some of my colleagues, right? And I'm not looking to disparage anybody in particular, but I'll tell you why. In law school, right, we are taught as lawyers, like you spend every day of law school reading about cases where things went wrong, right? There are no cases in court where things went right, right? They don't go to litigation. So what you study is everything that can go wrong. So you are over-indexed towards risk. Now, listen, one of the jobs of a lawyer is absolutely crucial is to help evaluate and mitigate risk, but it's only one of the jobs. I'm a fundamental believer that as an entrepreneur, you cannot be successful. You cannot grow without taking risk. Now, you don't want to take blind risk. You want to take knowing risk. You want to take measured risk. You want to mitigate risk as much as you can, but you cannot be successful without taking risk. And that's a fundamental issue that comes up a lot of times between lawyers and business leaders and entrepreneurs, is that this over-indexing towards risk, the fact that most lawyers have not truly been entrepreneurs. And so, listen, this is a little self-serving. I'm not the only one out there, but there's a few of us who really, like I have, not only have I had businesses since I'm 15, but I have other businesses, right? I have a speaking, training, consulting company. I've had real estate investment funds. I've done other stuff. I've got a new products that I'm building out with my wife now on online courses and retreats and around white privilege and race relations and training, let's call them newly energized white folks out of what's coming out of things, recently. So you want to get somebody who understands you as an entrepreneur, has the professional and ethical and lawyer skills to do it, but gets entrepreneurs, gets that market. It's different. Somebody who works for big companies all the time, or somebody who does other things and does a little bit of corporate work is not your deal person. So that's That's one big thing. And then the other thing is, listen, this is too important of a relationship not to mesh with the person, feel good about who they are, right? Don't only focus on their skills. This is a trusted advisor. This is somebody who should be your partner in your business growth, right? This is somebody who you want to like working with, who you align with, who the values align with, and test that out as well. And then enthusiasm, I'd say. Again, these may not be the things people expected, but one of the things that I think makes me really good at what I do is that I love entrepreneurship, and I like when somebody tells me about their business, I'm like, it's the greatest thing in the world to me. Like the fact that entrepreneurs create stuff out of nothing. That's what we do, right? We take something that is in our mind and we make it real in the world. And we make it real in the world, hopefully in a way where we're being of service, where we're having a huge impact on our clients, customers, communities, et cetera, where we're creating opportunities and jobs and, for people or contractor relations, whatever, however it's structured, and where we have a passion for whatever we're pursuing. And for me, I just love doing that. And if I love doing that, then, I'm going to be an enthusiastic partner. So you want to look for somebody who just really has a lot of joy in what they do, I think, in any person you work with.
That is so well said. We're going to get to how they can connect with you. One of our core values here at the Happy Entrepreneur Show at Champion Nation is today is my January 1st. And for those folks that know what segment I'm about to go into, by the way, you can look right below the video. What's up, Monique? You can look right below the video and you can write those words. Today is my January 1st. And for those folks who want to know, Shay, what are you talking about? Today is my January 1st represents one of those moments where you make a decision. You don't look up at the calendar and say, is today January 1st? No. You make one of those decisions throughout the day, and it's probably 1,000 decisions throughout the day. And any one of those could change the trajectory of your life. So you make a decision that you're going to work out, which you can do right now. You got plenty of time. Or you're going to sit back and you're going to binge watch and watch everything you can on Netflix, right? You make a decision that you're going to eat hamburgers and French fries. And I like to say salt, pepper, and some ketchup is one of my favorite things to do, by the way. I love French fries. Or you're going to go to the refrigerator. You're going to open it up and there's some kale. You have some of that. There's some broccoli. You have some of that. And got to get the Brussels sprouts, right? Don't leave those in there. So it's a do-over. It's a fresh start. It's your past doesn't equal your future. My question to Corey, who does so much, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what does it mean to you? What goes through your mind?
I so believe that. And you said a phrase that I was about to say, which is that your past does not equal your future. That's such a powerful, powerful phrase. Because listen, we've all been knocked down. We've all had our challenges, some more than others, and we have this moment at all times. So for me, what it means is that, see, I believe fundamentally that we are all co-creators. We're co-creators with the universe, consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm not talking about organized religion. I'm talking about, I happen to believe, you don't have to believe that, but I think we co-create with Source. And what that means is that we have the opportunity in any moment to create something new, right? All it takes is a shift and a connection to to our inner truth, to what is true, because and what we're called to be doing. My wife wrote a book called The Calling recently. Right, the biggest thing that we can do if we're connected to our calling, what is our purpose here in life? Then, if we're able to, and I do this, right? Because listen, I get thrown off, right? I have bad days. I get headaches, and but what I do is I step back and I say, okay, what am I here to do? Who am I here to impact? And what can I start new today that will bring me back on course, with that? So for me, I mean, this work that Ron and I are doing, my wife, on creating these materials around the white privilege work, that wasn't something that was on the table. I mean, we've gone into culture. In fact, we met through my Conversations About Race project 20 years ago. We got introduced because that project. My wife happens to be African American, and somebody introduced us not because they thought we should be a couple, but because she did work in the area, I did work in the area, and it's a great long story which we don't have time for. But one thing led to another, and now we're 18 years married. But so we've done that work, but it wasn't on our radar to do these particular products and offerings that we're about to do. And then circumstances in the world happened, and we said, we're called to do this. So it's January 1. right now for that work. There's an impact we know we can make. There's a way, something we offer, right, that is uniquely ours that nobody else offers. And I don't say that from any place of ego or whatever, because there's other people doing great work in that area. But I believe everybody has something unique. Every person listening to this, every entrepreneur, every person out there, we have a unique gift and a unique impact that every one of us can have. And it's our not only responsibility, but our duty but our calling to do so. So for us, that was a January 1 as to that stuff. So I'm doing that despite the fact that I was also launching a bunch of new products and offerings on my DealQuest side, and the law firm is busy and whatever, because for me, what it means is when the universe calls me, the universe knows better what my January 1 needs to be than I do a lot of times, and I just need to trust that.
Yeah, you need to trust it. I love it. What was your January 1st moment when you decided you were going to get into this? You've been studying, you brought up, 5 or 6 times this whole white privilege thing. You've been studying race relations, your interracial marriage, as you said, for over 20 years, and you were doing the work prior to that. What was your January 1st moment where you said, you know what? This is something that I'm even going to get involved in. Don't have to, but I'm not only going to get involved in, but I'm going to get involved in it to make a change. And you're doing that, man. You're doing that really, really big in the world. Talk about authentic negotiations. It's probably got to be one of the biggest negotiating deals you're doing of your life. But what was your January 1st moment, and why? Because you don't have to do this.
It's funny you asked that, because this is literally like a January 1st moment. Okay, like literally. So in the year, the millennial, right? 99 going into 2000. If you remember, Y2K was supposed to end the world, I remember that. Crazy stuff at that time, right? For those of us, who can think back. Well, so I didn't want to be in all this drama around Y2K, whatever. So I actually went out to. I was living in New York at the time, where we still, have a place, and I came out to California, where I happen to be now, and I decided I was going to do a yoga and meditation retreat that ran Christmas over New Year's, right? And I was going to spend my New Year's Eve meditating and chanting and bringing in the new year in a much more conscious, way. And so because I was in that environment, I wasn't doing any media, now it was 2000, so we didn't have like this constantly, there. But still, I wasn't watching TV. I wasn't listening to the radio. I wasn't, we had some sort of cell phone, whatever, I think I'm trying to remember. But in any case, the point was I was trying to be inner, right? But for some reason, I come back to the hotel room on, right before January 1st, December 31st, December 30th, whatever it was. I come back to the hotel one of the nights of my entire 7 or 8 days there, and I'm drawn to turn on the television for some reason, right? And I said to myself I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't a big TV watcher anyway, but someday I was drawn to turn on the television. I turn on the television in the hotel room. Bill Bradley is running for president at the time. He's speaking at St. Anselm College. And I hear him say, there's a paraphrase, but he fundamentally just says, if you've never had a conversation about race with a person of another race, you're part of the problem. And I stopped, and I thought about it. And I didn't know what Bradley meant exactly, at that time. But the way I took it was, I said to myself, I have diverse friends. We talk about some very intimate topics. Our love lives, our families, financial, sometimes money, whatever. We talk about issues around race. Okay. We talk about, whether it's, policing or prisons or, affirmative action or whatever, right? We talk about the issues around race. But how many times did I have a intimate one-on-one conversation about race with a person of another race? That's at least how I took it. And so that was literally right around January 1. Bill Bradley's comment was a January 1 moment for me. I came back to New York. It took me 2-3 months to get the courage to try to figure out, I'm like, how do I open these conversations? I started calling friends of mine of different backgrounds. The way I ended up opening it was sharing the story about Bill Bradley and having these one-on-one conversations about race with people of different backgrounds. And it wasn't like, again, it was like, what was it like for me growing up? What was it like for you growing up? What did I always want to know about you, a group that I was afraid to ask, right? Questions like that. And I ended up, every conversation looked different, but the common result on every conversation was deeper intimacy, more closeness, right? Close friends became closer. acquaintances became friends, and so I saw there was something there, got a diverse group together to help me, turned it into a project. We've done that project on college campuses, for students, for professors, and community groups. We did the first one we did at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, where we had 110 people having 55 one-on-one cross-cultural dialogues about race. We did it at the World Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa in 2001, which was not that many years after the end of apartheid, and had black South Africans and white South Africans talking to each other about race, which was, mind-boggling. I could share stories that bring me to tears on the results of that project. And I met my wife because of that project. Okay. So, so there was literally, it was almost exactly on January 1. Bill Bradley's comment was my January 1 moment that had me create that.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for being authentic. It's had to be one of the biggest, and again, negotiation deals you've done. You've done so many along the way. The folks that are listening out there, and they may be thinking, okay, I'm listening to Corey. I like what he's saying. What type of clients does Corey look for? And how can I best connect with him? Because I heard him mention that his firm does negotiating deals. It helps businesses do that. I heard him say he does investing. I heard him say he does real estate. I heard him say he does race relations and white privilege. So he does a lot of different things. So as an entrepreneur sitting out there right now, can he take a few minutes and tell us, hey, this is the type of client that we work with.
Sure.
And you might be the type of client that's listening right now, or you may know someone who'd be a good connector for Corey. So Corey, take it away. First, tell them the type of client you look for, and then number two, how can they best connect with you?
Yeah. So thank you. So on the law firm, and so law firm is Kupfer Associates, and then on my speaking, training, and consulting side, it's called DealQuest, right? So on both those sides, my ideal clients are entrepreneurs looking to grow their businesses, entrepreneurs, executives, business leaders looking to grow, right? Largely, we do contracts and other stuff, but the big focus is through deal-driven growth, and they really range from all sizes. And one of the, some people may be saying out there, how can you do everything you do? The way I do everything I do is that I got team. I've got an amazing team. So, I've got other lawyers that work with me. I've got people that help me on the consulting side. I've got, all kinds of support. So myself and my team would work with, those entrepreneurs either in a legal capacity or through, on the DealQuest side, we are actually developing an online course there. I do some speaking, training, and consulting on that. And we are, because our clients have asked for it, we're starting to form some really, high-end mastermind groups to put people together so that they can support each other in their deal-making success. On the white awakening work that we're doing, is what we're calling it, the white privilege work, that stuff is not, that particular stuff is not launched yet, but here's the hub. The bottom line is CoreyKupfer.com, CoreyKupfer.com is the hub. There's a link to my law firm site there. There will be a link to the White Awakening work. In fact, in a couple of weeks, we'll have our assessment. So there'll be a link to that. But, so I can give my law firm website, I can give everything. Go to CoreyKupfer.com. That website's about to be fully updated to include all this, and you'll be able to get everywhere from there. And then if you just Google me or hit me up on any of the LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, it's at Corey Kupfer at all those places.
Guys, so go over to Corey Kupfer, spell your last name so they have it. They have everything we sent to them. But just so the folks, because some folks listen to the podcast, as you know, there's some folks right now listening on iTunes or Roku or Apple TV. So take a moment, if you would, and kind of spell the website. For those folks that are out there listening right now, go ahead and make sure you pay this message forward. So what's the website that's best to connect with you?
Sure, thank you. So it's Corey Kupfer. So it's CoreyKupfer.com.
He made it real simple. His name.com. I say, my name.com. And that'll get you right there, by the way. Get you right there.
That's the hub that spreads it out to wherever else you need to go.
Fantastic. Now, we're on a segment now called Rapid Fire. And Rapid Fire is where we get to ask, for those folks that are listening and joining for the first time, whatever question pops top of mind to us. And Corey can answer, or he can obviously graciously decline. Hopefully, he'll answer the question. We hope he does that, right? We all hope he does that. But one of my favorite questions to ask every guest, because I get an opportunity to sit here and learn. I think I'm getting a PhD doing all this, by the way, and it's so much fun. They should call it Happy Hour with Shay. They really should. But in all seriousness, of all the ideas you've learned, and you may have learned, 20,000 ideas in your lifetime, maybe more than that. if you had to share your number one key to success, not your only key, but your number one key to success that drives you, what would that be and why?
Yeah. So for me, it's there's almost two I want to give, but I'll give the one.
Give a two. If you want to give two, that's fine. Give two.
Because the one is a personal thing that affects everything in my life, and that is that I am responsible.
He's negotiating. You see that? You see the authentic negotiator come out. I want to give you one, Shay, but I really want to give you two. What do you say over there? And he's authentically negotiating.
It's up to you, Jay, but you can let your audience miss out on the second one. It's really good if you don't want to do it. No, yeah. I mean, the first one is that I am 100% responsible for everything that happens in my life. Now, people shouldn't take that wrong. Things happen to you that you don't have control over, but what you have control over, the biggest lesson, Stephen Covey talks about this in Between Stimulus and Responses Choice, which is what makes us different as humans. We have 100% control over our relationship to anything that's happened to us in life and to our lives, which means that we have 100% control in that way. And I don't want to minimize the fact that some people have had much more challenging circumstances to be able to do that, but that's true across the board, right? So that's my first sort of general life piece. In business specifically, I have this concept. It's not, I'm not the only one, but I have a way I define it, of highest and best use. One of the biggest things that's had me successful in all my businesses is to define what my highest and best use is in that business and work to do only those things and nothing else. So highest and best use has to have three components. One, it needs to be something that you are great at, right? You're really good at. But that's not enough because, frankly, I'll give an example in my law firm. I'm really good at drafting legal documents. I hate it. Used to love it, grown beyond it. I have people that work for me who do that, who are masters at that. That's their highest and best use. Great, let them do that, because not only are they great at it, but they have the second piece, which I no longer have anymore, which is they love it, right? So you need to be great at it. You need to be passionate about whatever that is. You need to love it. People stop at those two things, but there's a key third factor, which is that it's got to be highly leveraged, meaning it's got to move the needle. It's got to make a big difference in your organization, in your company. Because if you're just doing stuff you're great at and you love, but it's not moving the needle, what's the point? So what I do is I have people, I'm going to give a practical quick exercise here because I have all my entrepreneurs that I mentor do this, and I did it 25 years ago and it changed my life. You determine what your highest and best use areas are. No more than 5, 3 to 5, that's it. You can't have more than that, okay? Right? For me, it's just as an example, it's bringing in business, it's doing high-level strategy and structuring, it's developing my team, it's negotiating, right? Like on the law firm side, you determine what yours are. They could be anything. No more than 5, 3 to 5. Then you say, okay, then you do the hard work. This is the part that's gut-wrenching. You inventory, you basically create a log of everything you do for an entire week or two, whatever you need to get a typical, to get the truth of what you spend your time on, okay? And then only after you log it for that week or two, you go back and you look at how much of what you did is in your highest and best use area. I will tell you it will be a sickening result to start with, okay? Don't let it get you down. When I first did this exercise and I sort of made it up through things I had heard from other people and put it together, I told myself, oh man, I'm only spending 20% of my time in my highest and best use areas. That's horrible. By the way, in hindsight, I lied to myself because it was probably like 4 or 5% of my time, but I was sort of very generous in how I characterized stuff because, I could, like 20% sounded too low. But listen, when you define a gap, that's what gives you an opportunity in business and in life, right? If you can't define the gap, you don't know where to work. So I define the gap. You define the gap. Then you say, okay, what if this stuff doesn't need to be done at all? What if this stuff can I systemize in some way to get it off my plate? What of these things do I need to delegate to other people who are employees, contractors, affiliates, partners, whoever else you work with? And then if I don't have those in place, who do I need to get in place to be able to delegate to take this stuff over that is not my highest and best use area? Because here's the thing, the magic. If you are focused in your highest and best use area, whatever that is, that could be putting on events. It could be programming software. It could be graphic design. It could, whatever it is, right? If you are focused in your highest and best use areas and you get other people to do everything else, your business will grow exponentially. You'll be able to pay for those people. Obviously, it's a process and a step. Once I realized that, I got within a year from 20% to 50%, or even 4 and 5. It took me 8 more years to get from 50% up to 90%. But I knew what the journey was. Right. And now I run at 85, 90% in my highest and best use areas. I have people and systems around me. And that's how I've been able to be successful.
Beautiful, man. Thanks so much for sharing. You gave us actually a process that we can walk away with. Second to last question, and then we'll allow you to have your final thoughts. And it's one of my favorite. Of course, they're all my favorite. That's why I ask these questions. They're all my favorite, all of them. But my true favorite question as well is, of all the mentors you've had in this journey of life, and I know you've had many mentors from time you were very little to maybe even where you are right now, if you could share one idea that you've learned from your mentors, and there's so many, but you guys grab one idea that you can say, this is an idea, and I'm going to pass this along to the audience so they can benefit from my mentor. What's the one idea you'd share, the thought? The idea?
All right, and I'll keep this to one. But I will say that I actually have a mentors page on my website where I talk about the lessons I've gotten from my various mentors and have links to them. So if people want to see that on CoreyKupfer.com, they can go there. But listen, out of all my mentors, I'm actually going to pick my father. And the biggest, or one of the most profound things I got from him was actually on his deathbed. He passed away about almost 5 years ago now, or actually over 5 years ago now. And at 80 years old, and he was at home hospice care, in his last days. And a coworker of his, who became a close friend, had come over. And my dad was very, very weak at that time, very weak, could barely speak. And he said, Joe had been talking about, Joe and his wife, the friend, had been talking about taking this vacation, this dream vacation for years, and they had never done it. And my father said, Joe, you got to go take that vacation, right? And Joe looked at him and he said, and my father said something that still brings me to tears, which is that, listen, I've lived a good life. I've traveled a lot of places. I've done a lot of things. I got a great family. He said, I know I'm about to go, and I can say that I am leaving this earth with no regrets. So, Joe, go take that vacation, because you never want to get to the place where I am and have regrets.
Thanks so much for sharing, man. Thanks for being super authentic. No regrets. Take the vacation. Very, very powerful. Let me first say thank you so much on behalf of the Happy Entrepreneur Show for being here. One of the things that we do know is you can always make more money. Every single one of them can go cut some deals and they can make more money. But none of us, myself, you, Corey, anyone watching, can make more time. And so you've given us the most precious gift that you have right now, which is your time. And I'm assuming we're in that 90 percentile range. This is the best use of your time right now, being here, serving other folks, making a difference, adding value, and changing lives. So thanks a lot, man. We've got to have you back. I admired you when I met you with Ramon Ray when we were on that panel, and your heart to give and your heart to serve. And I was like, man, I want him to be able to share with the audience. So thank you so much. I'm going to advise everyone before I turn it over to Corey to give his final thoughts, by the way, to make sure you connect with him. You can go over to www.coreykupfer.com. Just go to the site there. Once you get there, then you can see exactly how you can connect with him on multiple platforms. Worst case scenario is you get a chance to connect and you say, that's not the guy for me, right? And he may be able to refer you some other people to do what he do, and they may be a good fit. Best case scenario is you start a relationship that lasts a very, very long time. So, Corey, once again, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Can't wait to have you back. I'm going to turn it over to you now, man, to have your final thoughts, your final comments for the entrepreneurs that are out there.
So, first of all, I really want to thank you for having me on. I just love this format. I love the show. I've listened to some of the other episodes, and you're providing such a great service for folks as well. So I want to say that. And then, my last thought for people is that you are here for a purpose, right? Follow that purpose. Trust that's why you're here. I've gotten to the point where, let me just say it this way. there's goal setting, there's all this stuff and whatever, but then there's a way to just sort of trust and take that next right action, right? And it's not always linear. It's not always logical. Truth does not lie here. This is a tool that we use to help our success. Truth is in the heart, in the soul, in the gut, right? When you get that feeling, connect to it and trust and take that next right action. That's the thing that has had my success go to a level it has, right, way beyond any goal setting and planning, which is useful tools, but trust where you're called to go, whether it makes sense or not.
Trust where you're called to go. With that being said, thank you so much, Corey. For all of you out there watching, Sheila Fard is out there. Danny is out there. Tiffany, what's up, Tiffany? Samuel, my man, up in New York, New York. So nice. They named it twice, by the way. Monique Gaffey's out there. She said, hey, I'm in California as well. And so many. Thank you for tuning in for the Happy Entrepreneur Show. I want you to know that you are amazing. You're awesome. You've got greatness inside you. And for you, the best is still yet to come, because you can be an authentic negotiator. For you that's watching right now, the best is still to come, because you can do deal-driven growth. You can make that happen. And for you, today is your January 1st. But you've got to do what? You've got to trust the process. With that being said, my name, for those folks who wonder who's doing all that screaming, who's doing all that yelling, who's doing all that talking, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. Remember, time is long. Life, by the way, on the other hand, it's very, very short. So you've got to live in the moment, and you got to make it count. God bless, and we wish every single one of you success. Thanks a lot, Corey. You rock, man. We appreciate it. Peace to all of you out there. We out. Talk to you later. Connect with you soon. Bye-bye. Promise I made to my mom. I only did this message for one person, and that's my mom. This is for you, Mom. Love you. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Shay Brown.
Mic check, mic check.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Yes. Yeah.
And they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win.
Yeah.
Thank you. God bless.